All right, guys, today we have some more Monster Energy Supercross 25 stuff, early gameplay, I guess, some behind-the-scenes things to show you. This video is going to have some Supercross 6 playing in the background, but you will be seeing some behind-the-scenes things, some Monster Energy Supercross 25 stuff in the background. For example, when certain topics or questions are being talked about, you might see things relating to that. So, I had the opportunity to talk to Milestone about Monster Energy Supercross 25. There were some questions that they went over. They explained some stuff. And then there were some questions from the community that I got from you guys on Instagram. Now, a lot of them they weren't able to answer at the time, such as DLC and whatnot, the plans for the game and, you know, updating it and whatever. But we do know now that the Super Motocross tracks will be in the game as a DLC and two-stroke bikes released over the coming months up to September when the playoff races will happen. So that's pretty cool, but there are some questions, some stuff they want to talk about. And then later, I did get the chance to talk to him again. Milestone has heard you about the tracks. That was a big concern. The jumps, how small and rolled off they were, the corners, and that was one of the major concerns from a lot of the comments I've seen. Yes, there were other stuff, but that was one of the big ones. I agreed with you, and they've heard you. So I'm not going to really talk about it. That's the first thing you're going to listen to from Mikel, the development and creative director at Milestone. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
Yes, it's worth explaining a little more because we've seen some comments about the jumps and the trucks. So it's worth spending 5 minutes about this particular topic. And as you said, we made the trucks for the first time, not based on some 3D scan made with drones like we usually do, but based on blueprints. The blueprints coming from the truck designer, from Feld. But these trucks were not existent. We started working on those around June, and we made all the trucks, all of them before they were existent. Then the clips, the gameplay clips that have been shown were some from a build around November. So yet all the tracks to be constructed and raced. We knew that there could be some differences. You know, sometimes the jumps are slightly different, the profiles, or sometimes some jumps are moved or changed more deeply. So we knew that working in advance posed some challenge. And so we started watching the races and understanding that some of those adjustments were needed, and the comments just go in the same direction. So what we are doing right now is reworking the trucks along when the race. You know, we're at round 9 currently, still 8 to go. So it's a process that it doesn't start today, and surely it doesn't end today. What we are doing is committing to deliver 4 updated tracks with some more challenging jumps, and then along something like 1.5 months after the release of the game, completing all of them. So why does it take time? Because you might say you just need to pick up the jumps and make them higher. Well, unfortunately, it's not as simple as that, because we need actually to make the jumps higher, but then we need to adjust many other little details of the truck, test the flow, because the flow has to work pad in hand, and check that everything still work and the jumps still connect correctly. Then we need to train the AIs, because these AIs that are made with machine learning need to run on the actual tracks and learn about the jumps, the corners, everything. So they need to be retrained from scratch. So we need some time to do this, but to comfort the players, it's something we knew it could be and should be done. So we've been working on this. Again, the footage was from November, so many things have changed in the meantime. We'll show you some footage about Glendale being updated. So you notice that the jumps are different and higher, and also we've worked on the banking of the corners and some other little details. So the team is still committed into perfecting the game, into making it more and more consistent with reality. We wanted to just tell that this is already an ongoing work. It's already happening. We need just some time to close the circle and make it complete. Well, it's been very, very hard because we'd have to talk about two main topics that are the tracks and the riders. Starting with the riders, we started in practice gathering the pictures, the reference pictures for the past season, so that we created the full roster for the 24, just to be used as the foundation for the 25. 1 year ago, we were making the 24 roster. We completed it, and then we traced when they announced the new roster. So any team change, any sponsor change, new riders, and everything, we tried to incorporate, as long as these news were coming, into a provisional roster for the 25. That roster made its way into the game, into the disc, basically, into the foundation of the game. But what players will see in day one is yet another roster, the third one. So we had to make many riders 3 times. So in December, we gathered again the 25 pictures, and this alone is a very complicated task because we have to get in touch with the riders, know when they organize the photo shootings and etc. But we gathered the 25 reference pictures and we started producing yet another roster. Sometimes they were similar, sometimes they were very different. So this new and completely updated roster will get to the players in day one. Yes, it's been very, very complicated because, again, we built not everyone, but many of them 3 times to be ready, to be updated, and to be hitting the day one with the right content. Then the trucks. The trucks are very lengthy to be produced. We got in touch with the championship organizer, Feld, and we were introduced to the people that actually design the trucks, because they, luckily for us, they're designed with a long lead time before the season. So sometimes around June of the last year, we started receiving the first blueprints of the trucks, blueprints that are made with very, very specific measurements of the jumps, of everything involved in building the layouts. And then along the year, we continued receiving more and more blueprints. Sometimes they needed to be refined, sometimes there were some minor changes, but we had the chance to produce the trucks, obviously, before they were in reality. So these are the two key points in building the 25 experience on two different challenges for the trucks and for the riders. And you can imagine how lengthy and complex it's been to do all of this. The aim of building the new physics, both on the ground and in the air, was to recreate something a white page, because we knew we had been going on with some ideas for years. We knew about some of the players loving what we were doing, some others less, and it's normal. But having 2 years to think from the very foundation, everything again, gives you the occasion to think more and iterate more. We started with some new ideas about the ground physics. They had to be something more being able to control and to have a predictable effects of the bike, because we knew that the faster we made the bike turn, the more nimble it feels. The risk is to overshoot corners or to have it unnaturally fast and less controllable as a side effect, as weird as it gets. So we took some time to reset the goal. We want a bike that you can trust, you can feel, it's realistic and yet very intuitive to ride. And you can use only the left stick if you're a beginner. You can automate the helps for the weight transfer. You can start using the right stick if you're going to be more serious. But in all of this situation, you don't feel like something is missing. So we wanted to have a very straightforward, realistic, but straightforward physics model in the suspensions, in the chassis, and in everything that makes the experience. The grip of the tires on different surfaces needed to be right, not too slidey, not too fixed. So we wanted to restart from the very foundations. In the air, it was much more clear what the players wanted. Wanted a free whip that they could manage on their own, instead of a, let me say, gamified whip that we had some time ago. This made the challenge a little easier, but not easy, because hitting a good balance between moving the rider physically in the air, but being able to close the jump, do whatever you want, and look realistic, it was very complex. That's why we took some time to make everything from scratch, and then involve people like you and other creators to have a direct feedback. And this was very helpful, because you get in touch with the community, we get in touch with the community, we work together, and we try to nail down and make the game as we feel that it should be. And we made several changes after your feedbacks and other feedbacks, and they were very helpful to hit the channel and going in a very precise direction. The result, I think, is more intuitive, more satisfying, and you can have a better flow over the track. Yeah, there's been a lengthy debate about to have the sticks in the same direction or in the opposite direction. The idea was that it's part of the white page from the start that I was telling you. We questioned every choice we made before. You know, many people of the team also changed. Many people that had worked on past titles have moved away on some other projects, or just away. And so we saw that was the best option to do, more natural and more intuitive, also for newcomers. So that was the idea. Yeah, the new neural AI is completely different from the systems we had before. Just to have a little explanation about how it worked and how it works. How it worked, it was a classic AI where you just draw the lines that it had to try to follow, more or less. It was a system that tried to cope with those lines. This had some limitations and some opportunities. The opportunities were that it was a simple system, very usable, and you can get very straightforward results. The limitation was a bit limited in performance and being smart on the track with the player. The neural AI, on the opposite, doesn't rely on anything. Basically, them knowing where the track is, left and right borders, and everything else, what lies ahead, the player, the ruts, the corners, the jumps, it starts to know by itself. There are these agents that start training and start lapping, and in the first iterations, they don't have a clue, and then they don't reach even the first corner. But the more iterations and the more they learn, they get to know the track, they get to know the handling, and they'll eventually learn how to ride very fast and to exploit the physics and the dynamics of the bike. With clever hints to them, for example, putting some different situations, slower riders, fastest rider, they can understand and learn how to adapt it to basically the player, because the player not always behaves like the AIs. So the result is that the AI is faster at the maximum setting of difficulty. They can adapt better, they fall less, and they can have a fair approach to the player. So we addressed with this technology that we have developed for road racing games many of the issues that we had with the old AI system. And it was very hard to port it on Supercross. It's something that it needed at least 2 years. It started even before we started working on the title. It was in an experimental stage for a long time, because it's very hard to learn how to jump, how to close the jumps, how to approach them, the hopes and the rim-section, everything. They had to learn from scratch, and there were all situations they were not seeing in the road races. So it's been a very, very tough challenge for the team, but the result, I think, is there because they're more fair, more consistent, and faster. The idea was to provide the players something with a different flavor from the Supercross trucks. Supercross trucks are widely different in some situations, some are more similar, but they are within a range, let me say, because they are all into stadiums or bigger, smaller, but the venues tend to be, with some very few exceptions, similar. The design, the flow, and the speeds and the elevations you can exploit are very similar. They're all built on a flat ground. So we wanted to have some more variation into the game, and the natural way was to design some new tracks. So we created these 6 motocross tracks to have many different situations and flavors for the players. So you can have elevation, they're not built on flat ground. You can have different flows, different rhythms in how the spacing works. They're bigger, and you can have a different approach that can be very interesting, because they're also put into the career mode, like in between races. You can tackle between one official weekend and the other. The idea is that there is so much that you can do with a dirt bike beyond just the Supercross trucks, and we wanted to have some of these things you can do into the game. And turned out they're very fun to ride. We designed them starting from a paper design, like just the Supercross trucks, the official ones are made. So you start thinking about the layout, then you iterate, because you want to give the elevation part. So you say, oh, maybe this part is at the top of a hill, this other part is at the bottom of the hill, then how I can manage to connect. Then you already have an idea about where to put the major jumps, but you have to then realize a rough layout to ride. Then you discover that it's a bit off and you want to refine it. So we move from a paper design, a detailed paper design, then to a rough implementation into the game. Then when we are satisfied, we like freeze the track layout, and we pass it to the artists, because so far it's been a design work. We pass it to the artists that refine artistically the track. And then it was a very nice occasion to have some cool locations, because we've gone a little bit crazy with the locations, with some cool backdrops, some places to see. And it's interesting because you remind better where you're going if there is a tricky jump, because there's some visual hotspots to be remembered. So it's an interactive thing to develop these tracks, and are a very, very nice variation among all the tracks you can find into the game. I can tell you that the crossplay with PC and consoles is both in active gameplay, so online matches, but also with created content. So yes. What we do is that we train the agents for the AI, and what they represent is the best possible performance that they can achieve. But then this ideal rider is no one, is any rider. To model the actual riders we have into the game, we have a set of skills we can provide them just to model that. Basically they're also riding different bikes, but they also have different skills to model the way that we see them performing. So a very experienced, fast, and top team rider will perform much better than newcomer privateer. So yes, absolutely. Adding to that, also the AI had a very, very daunting task, that was to cope with the ruts building up along the track, because this year we also have a dynamic terrain system, so the track changes during the race significantly. And this is a quite complex task for the AI, because you cannot take the same corner the same way at the beginning or at the end of the race. So they need to somehow read the terrain and know if they have to take the rut and use it in a tight line, in a wider line, but definitely not cutting through and falling over. So they need to understand what's going on with the evolution of the ruts. So again, it's something that they get used to do. Well, we're still working on the track editor. It's being refined for the usability, to make it smoother and more natural. It's not drastically changed from the past, but many other changes that we made required to be polished and fine-tuned. So if you're acquainted into using it, you're going to find a similar experience. The difference is that the AI running on it will be much better, because the new AIs will have an easier way to navigate and be faster on the user-created tracks. This was admittedly one of the things that was very, very hard to achieve with the old AI. This time, it's one of the goals, and the technology allows to do so. No, they're not even, because they're different from the beginning. Note, it's different between being even or equal, because you can achieve very, very fast performances, and if you upgrade all the bikes to the max, they're going to be very, very close. But at the same time, they start from different foundations. So even the small differences that only some can appreciate have a weight, like the chassis measurement, the rake trail, the length of the suspension arms, and everything is 1-to-1 with the model you see on screen. So and the model you see on screen is 1-to-1 with the manufacturer's model. So if there's some slight difference in the geometry, it might not be super evident, but it's going to be there. The difference are not huge, not like making seconds in difference, but somehow are there. And if it's going to be a Honda chassis, it's going to be a Honda chassis. Whatever the exhaust you put, whatever you do to other parts of the bike. So they're very close, but they're not identical. Because, even in real life, they're not miles apart from one from the other. What I'm saying, they're not just a skin. The way we work is that we take some physical measurements and we take them 1-to-1 with the actual visuals you have. So if the bike has some different steering angle, so it's tilted slightly different, it's going to be the very same. Okay, so whatever they had chosen in Yamaha or Suzuki, it's going to be there.